Dave Hall here from MotoArt PlaneTags, and I got Rob Schneider, who is also with MotoArt, and we are at the USS Midway in beautiful San Diego. Unfortunately, this is the one day out of 100 that it's raining, so instead of being up in the flight deck, we're down here in the hangar deck. And right now we have the CEO of the USS Midway, Mr. Terry Kraft. A pleasure to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you, Dave. Thank you.
And Terry, you have an amazing, colorful career aboard the aircraft carrier. And, you know, I'm still a little new at this with the USS Midway. Thought possibly you can maybe kind of walk us along your career and really how you ended up here as the CEO of the Midway.
Sure. Thanks. Great to be here. I did 34 years in the Navy. Retired as a 2-star in 2015, but really the part of my career that was most interesting, where I was really forged, were my 2 years here on board USS Midway. I was an A6 intruder, bombardier navigator. I've got about 300 landings on the ship.
Oh, wow.
But the last cruise of Midway coincided with Operation Desert Storm. So our Air Wing 5, and my squadron, VA 115, I ended up flying 40 combat missions during Operation Desert Storm.
Wow.
From the Midway.
Wow.
So I have a strong connection to Midway, having done 2 deployments here, and it's just great to be back.
Did you ever think it was going to become a museum? I mean, was there ever thought or a talk of any type of conversation of what was going to happen to the Midway when you were stationed?
No, I mean, we knew the ship was going to be decommissioned in '92.
Right.
We were kind of okay with that because the flight deck on this ship moved a lot. I've got 1,000 care landings, and by far the most mobile flight deck was here on Midway, because Midway actually went through 3 different flight decks during her lifetime.
Right.
And the third and final deck was heavy, and the ship moved around a lot. So I miss Midway, but I don't miss landing on Midway.
Where do you see the Midway in the next 5-10 years? Obviously, this is a major tourist attraction for the city of San Diego. I came here, 15 years ago, my first experience with the Midway.
Yeah.
It's great to be back. Obviously, this draws a very large crowd. How is tourism, and what type of audience do you get a year?
Sure. I mean, things are so great on Midway. City of San Diego just named a street after us, so we're honored by that. We are the #1 ship museum in the world. We do over 1 million visitors a year. We've opened up more spaces on Midway than any other museum ship. And we're the #1 TripAdvisor attraction here in San Diego.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Now, speaking of exhibits, walking through the Midway, you really get a hands-on feeling of what it was like being a sailor on the Midway. Can you talk a little bit about the exhibits that you have on board and what people might experience when they visit the Midway?
Sure. I mean, our idea is to inspire, educate, and entertain everyone that comes aboard. And what I love doing is I'll follow a family around and kind of get their impressions on, wow, I could never sleep 3 high in a bunk, or wow, there's really no room in here, or being up on the flight deck and just seeing how massive it is.
Right.
I love to hear their reactions. And really what we're trying to do is just introduce people to what our lives were like on an aircraft carrier and the incredible sacrifices that our sailors made every single day on board Midway.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should talk a little bit about why we're here. You've given us an incredible opportunity to work with USS Midway. And thanks to our friend Brian, who collects plane tags, who was the one who actually introduced us to the Midway. But one of the primary reasons that we're here is we had an opportunity to preserve naval history. And one of the first things that we are going to be working with is the screw, or the propeller, as most people call it, of the USS Midway. And what we have here is actually a section of the bronze propeller. It's actually made out of a magnesium-bronze.
Sounds good.
Manganese.
Is that what it is? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Manganese-bronze.
I kept calling it brass. It's bronze. All part of the copper family, the alloy. So we were fortunate enough to actually work with sections of the propeller. And can you tell us a little bit how we actually, how are we here? How is it possible if the propeller is still on the ship? And what happened?
Most of the propellers on the ship. About 10 years ago, we found out that we were grounding by the stern. So enough sediment and rocks had built up back along our stern, which is along the seawall here in San Diego, that at low tide, our 2 lowest propellers out of the 4 were grounding into the rocks. So and that was creating bad reverse stress on the hull.
Right.
So what we did was we cut off the bottom portion, maybe the bottom 3 feet of each propeller. So now we're truly floating. But that allowed us to have enough propeller material to do memorabilia.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what were the first signs of knowing that you had some distress in the back? I mean, there had to have been some indications that you had a situation back there.
Right. So when we were grounding back there, you could hear the creaking, and you could actually see some deformations in the hull. And we sent divers under who said, yep, you're aground twice a day. So there's 2 low tides a day here in San Diego, and we were grounding twice a day.
Oh my gosh.
Can't have it.
Yeah.
So now we are truly floating. We're one of the few ship museums that is actually floating. A lot of ship museums have settled to the bottom. We're floating here, so we move 8 to 12 feet a day every low and tide. We move fore and aft with every high and low tide.
Well, that's great. Well, we are super excited about this. We have a couple other parts of the ship that we'll be documenting after introducing the propeller, and I can't thank you enough for allowing us to have the opportunity to work with USS Midway. If you're ever in Torrance, California, where we're from, we invite you to come by our studio. Okay. It's a little bit like our own little personal museum there, and I think you get a real kick out of it.
Great. Yeah, I love your product. I think it looks fantastic. It's going to be a great way for people to own a piece of Midway. So I think it's pretty cool. I've got a little piece of metal for you, too. I didn't make this, but this is an official Midway coin. My CEO coin I'm going to give to you guys. Thanks for coming out today. You can
thank you, Terry.
Add that to your collection.
Wow, I certainly will. That's pretty special. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Oh, it's great. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Dave.
So I'm more of Dave's historian for PlaneTags. And my question for you is, I want to know what life is on the aircraft carrier as somebody who's flown off the aircraft carrier and spent time on the aircraft carrier. I want to know if you can elaborate on what life is like on the aircraft carrier for us.
Sure. Well, I think probably the most stressful time was during Desert Storm when we're flying in combat.
Of course.
So in the A6 Intruder, we flew strikes into Iraq every single night. So your life revolved around planning your next mission, which was very detailed because you had to look at what the threats are, what the weather is, what's the target, what's the weapon, how am I going to get in and out without dying, and then manning up, flying the mission, coming back, sleeping, repeating all over again. So it was that was probably my most intense time on board a carrier. But as a carrier aviator, your life revolves around the flight schedule.
Yeah.
And when you're not flying, when you're not eating or sleeping, you're flying. Now, later on, when I commanded an aircraft carrier, it was much different. Your life revolves around being on the bridge and all the things that a city at sea has to do. Think about it. There's 5,000 people on board a carrier. So there's something going on really around the clock all the time. And we'd have visitors on board, and they're like, wow, is there ever a time when it's not noisy here? And it's like, no. And as the captain, if it gets quiet, that's what wakes you up because something's not working on it.
That's fair.
Yeah. But you know, as the commanding officer of an aircraft carrier, you really depend on your very talented department heads. You can't be everywhere at once. So you have to have people that you trust, and then you make it happen.
So you've also sat in the seat of a jet being launched from a carrier. What's that feeling like, being pulled by that catapult, just launching off the boat?
It's funny because the G-forces go in a different direction. Instead of like when you're pulling G's in the aircraft, it goes down through the seat of your pants. But a catapult shot, the G's are going backwards through your body. So you kind of feel your guts shift back in your body a little bit during the cat shot. And there's a lot of vibration. So it takes a second after you're airborne to really get your eyes refocused back on your instruments and make sure you have the end speed that you need and that you're climbing.
And then landing. I mean, obviously landing, you're trying to hit the wires. You're not trying not to miss the wires.
Right. You're trying to land the aircraft in the size of about a tennis court.
Yeah.
And so on Midway, there's 3 wires. The first wire you come to is the 1 wire. The middle one is the 2 wire. And the third one's called the 3 wire.
Okay.
If you land on a 3 wire further down, that's okay. It meant you were a little bit high coming in. The target is the 2 wire, the middle wire. If you grab the first wire you come to, they don't like that.
Really?
Because that means you were low crossing the ramp, and they don't like it when you're low because that you could hit the ramp, and that's called a ramp strike.
So if you miss the wires,
it's okay. You just come around again. but every pass that a pilot flies on the aircraft carrier is graded. From the commanding officer on down to the newest Lieutenant JG, you're going to get a landing grade. And as you can imagine, we're pretty competitive in the squadron and also between squadrons for who's going to get the top hook award at the end of the deployment.
And what's the grading system look like? A, B, C? Or
kind of like that.
A point system?
If you fly a really good pass, you get it's called an OK pass. That's the best. That's the best you can do. A pass with some deviations, it's called a fair pass. A really bad pass, like usually when you land on the one wire, you get what's called a no grade. And then there could also be a bolter or a wave off. You shoot for that OK pass every time you fly. During the day, landing on the ship during the day is fun.
Right.
Because it's if you land on the ship during the day and the ship says, hey, we can shoot you off again for another trap, you're like, that's great.
Right.
At night, you fly one pass, you're glad to be aboard, and you want to go get a hamburger. It's hard work at night.
And what about weather? I mean, obviously,
weather's an issue too. The biggest issue on Midway, as I said, was the pitching deck. So when there's a bad sea state, the deck can really move. I've seen it where these propellers were actually out of the water as you're coming back to land on the ship. I saw an instance one time where the plane in front of me on the catapult, one of his engines was snuffed out by green water coming over the bow. Wow. So that's when I looked up to the bridge and said, are we really doing this? I don't think I want to do this.
Now, we talk weather landings and nasty weather landings. You look at most commercial airliners, they have ILS landings, instrument landing systems. Does a carrier have an ILS capability on it?
We have two. We have the ILS, but then as you get in closer, we have something called the ACLS, the aircraft carrier landing system, and that is actually synced to deck movement. Okay. So that's the last thing you're going to be looking at are your ACLS needles. But everybody at 3/4 of a mile has to come out of the cockpit and acquire the visual landing aid to get aboard. If you have to press much more than that, that's when it gets a little nerve-wracking.
Terry, I'd like to take you back to the Reagan real quick. Is there a particular story that you could tell the audience that really stands out in your mind on the Reagan, from your time on the Reagan?
Well, the one everybody likes to hear about is the time we rescued the girl with appendicitis. So we were operating just off San Diego here doing our workups. And we had about another week of underway time to get all our qualifications done. Third Fleet, our commanders called me at about 10 p.m. that night and said, hey, a cruise ship just underway to Ensenada, there's a girl with an appendix that's about to burst. And I didn't know this, but cruise ships don't have a doctor on board. They have a PA. And they couldn't pull back in Ensenada. And they said, we don't know if you guys are going to have to do the rescue. We're looking around, but we'll call you. Well, we looked at who was down there, and there was nobody down there. So we decided it's going to be us. So I called the captain it was a Princess cruise liner. I called him. We worked out a rendezvous point, and but we had to do flight ops till 11 p.m. that night. Once flight ops were done, I rang up a flank bell. He did too, and we agreed on where we were going to meet. The problem was another problem on a cruise liner. There's no helo pad. So our helicopter was got to wait until first light to drop a litter down and pick up this 13-year-old girl who had appendicitis. We couldn't take her mom because you try to minimize litter operations. Picked up the girl, brought her back. We always have a surgeon embarked when the carrier's underway. We had her opened up within 20 minutes on the table. But she had to ride us for another week because we weren't pulling in. We had more work to do. So she had a bed down there in medical. Right. And it was funny because all the squadron guys brought her patches and coins and hats. She had more stuff than anybody.
Did her parents catch up?
She was on the cruise with her mom, and as luck would have it, the Princess ship pulled into San Diego. So we put her mom on a cot, a carrier on board delivery aircraft a few days later, and brought her out.
Wow.
And I met her on the flight deck. She handed me her barf bag, I remember. And we got her reunited with her daughter, and they rode the ship for like 3 more days. And you can look at it online. It made all the news reports. And what's funny, I got to reunite with her. She's now 30-something. I got to reunite with her when I first took over Midway here on board the ship. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that's great.
So, we were out there. Oh, the weirdest part was, so as we're driving, flight ops are done. We're driving down there. It's 1 a.m. The Admiral on board said, Terry, you should call the mom. I'm like, Admiral, why do I need to call the mom? I'm sure she knows we're coming. He goes, I think you should probably call her. So we rigged up a patch to the Princess ship. And it was funny. I'm talking to the mom. She didn't believe that I was that a carrier was coming to get her daughter, and she really didn't believe I was the commanding officer.
Right.
And I'm like, no, really, I'm the captain,
Yeah.
and we're coming to get her. And don't worry.
It's a great story. Yeah.
That was funny.
Something that she'll
So-
never forget.
The admiral was right. She didn't believe me. Thanks, Brian.
I think that's it. Any other
Yeah.
questions?
Thank you.
I got to bug out. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks,
thank you
Dave.
again. It was a
Okay.
lot of fun.
My
I
pleasure.
hope we did okay.
Guys,
Amateurs we are. Thanks, Gary. Okay, we're back here at the USS Midway with our friend Mr. Dave Koontz, who is the marketing director of the Midway. And I was saying to you earlier, what an incredible job that must be to represent the USS Midway. The city of San Diego must be thrilled with what the Midway brings to the city. And tell us a little bit about your day to day and how the
Well, I am fortunate beyond all description of being able to be part of the Midway team. I'm retired Navy, and so I spent a lot of time in my early days in the Navy as a helicopter pilot, flying on and off aircraft carriers. And so all these years later, it's nice to be back on an aircraft carrier, but I don't have to go to sea anymore. So that's one of the nicest things about being here on Midway. But no, Midway is really truly an icon for San Diego. We are, as per TripAdvisor, considered the #1 thing to do in the city, which is really high praise for what we bring to the Southern California region. And I think one of the biggest things that makes Midway what Midway is today is our volunteers. We have a variety of different ways in which we reach out to our various audiences. And probably one of the most impactful ways that we do that here on the ship is through our volunteers. And we have more than almost 800 volunteers, actually. And about half of those volunteers are docents, are world famous docents. And they really complement the wide range of displays and exhibits we have here on Midway. And they do that in a way where they take a static display, a static exhibit, one of our aircraft here, and they can turn it into something that has life. They are able, the vast majority of our volunteers have prior service. Most of them here in San Diego served in the Navy, the Marine Corps, and many of them served on ships and aircraft carriers. So they're able to use their own personal experiences to talk about that aircraft or that console or that display because they were using it or involved with that when they were on active duty. And so they're able to really bring the Navy, bring naval aviation, bring Midway to life in a way that makes the experience for our guests that much more enriching. And in fact, I'd say probably more than a third. We've got our one MC here, making sure we have a realistic experience here on Midway, but they're able to just take and make that experience so much more enriching and so much more engaging. And probably more than a third of the reviews that we get, guest reviews on TripAdvisor or Google reviews, actually call out our volunteers for making the experience of our guests that much better. And there's nothing better than sharing those adventures of what it was like serving on a ship on the high seas. And one of the things we strongly encourage is a little bit of embellishment in those stories. I've heard docents tell the same story 5 times, and it's not exactly the same story.
Right.
So,
Embellishment welcome.
It is, and the average age of our docents is in the mid-70s, so they feel fairly comfortable that nobody's going to fact check their stories. So we do encourage a little bit of embellishment to just sort of sweeten the story, spice it up just a little bit. So that's one of the ways that Midway really takes this incredibly massive ship that's now 81 years old and turns it into really something special, something that's got a personality.
So Dave, you may not wear a yellow hat, but would you mind taking this opportunity and telling us a little bit about your service and the helicopters you flew?
Sure.
And what your role was when you were
Yeah,
serving?
sure. Back in the day when I had no fear of death, I was a helicopter pilot for the first half of my career. I flew H-3 Sea Kings, which was an anti-submarine warfare, flew off of carriers, also did search and rescue and a lot of other logistic missions. Flew the H-3 for several years, and then I transitioned to what's called the CH-53 Echo. The Navy doesn't have either one of those helicopters anymore. The Marine Corps still fly the Echo, which is called the Super Stallion, and that was a combat logistics support helicopter, which I flew in the Mediterranean and the Middle East for a number of years before I went into public affairs. So I consider myself incredibly fortunate to be able to have had that wonderful opportunity. And of my couple thousand hours of flight time, I think most of them are probably at 1,500 feet and below. And there's nothing more exhilarating than zipping across the ocean or the land, doing about 160 knots. It's quite a trip.
So we just got Terry's take on what it's like to live on an aircraft carrier and launch off an aircraft carrier as a pilot. What's it like as like a fighter pilot? What's it like? It's like a helicopter pilot to launch off of an aircraft carrier.
Much slower.
Is it?
Yeah.
Did you land on anything else besides aircraft carriers?
On some large deck amphibious ships, both large deck and small ship, and then some of the larger supply ships. But yeah, it's coming in to catch hopefully the 3-wire at 180 miles an hour, compared to coming in and slowing up into a hover and sliding over the deck and sitting down on the deck. And once you get over the deck of an aircraft carrier or even a large deck amphib, you might as well be in a farmer's field in Iowa. It's pretty big. So yeah, I'd say the pucker factor of landing a helicopter on a ship is a lot less than trying to land one of the fast movers.
Okay.
But in its own way, just as exhilarating and just as fun.
Getting back to your marketing director position here, the Midway holds a large variety of events. Right?
Sure does. Right.
From Christmas time, you guys have a million lights.
We do.
What was the
Jingle Jet.
Jingle Jet.
Yep.
I've seen the promotion of that. That's definitely something that I got to come down to experience. What other type of events do you have here at the Midway?
Sure, we have a wide variety of events. So that's probably our largest special event that we have that really is focused on our San Diego natives here, giving them a really unique opportunity to come down and enjoy something that nobody else can offer. I mean, when you dress an aircraft carrier up in lights, I mean, you can go anywhere else, and there's a lot of Christmas light displays in San Diego, but there's nothing like this. So it's really taking and putting a naval aviation twist on the experience here, the holiday experience here. And our hope is that not only will you come down and enjoy the holiday experience, but be intrigued enough to come back and enjoy it during the day at a later point. But that's probably our largest, and that goes from Thanksgiving through the end of the year. But our special events team is incredibly busy. We do more than 200 corporate events on board Midway every year. Another thing that's even more near and dear to my heart is that we probably do anywhere from 250 to 300 military ceremonies. So commissionings, retirements, promotions, even some memorial services here. Since 9/11, the ability to get family and friends on military bases has become more difficult just because of the security posture that they have to have on their bases. And so Midway really became a go-to place where the military can come and have those ceremonies, and it's easy to get on and get off. We don't drive any real revenue from it. Basically, it's just enough to cover the cost of helping put that on. But yeah, it's not unusual to come on board this ship and see 2 military ceremonies going on at the same time. And I think one of the things that's really neat about that, besides the enjoyment that the participants are getting, is it's really neat for our guests because they never get a chance to go onto a military base and see that. So it's interesting. You'll see a retirement ceremony happening somewhere, and the next thing you know, there's a little crowd of guests that's milling around there watching to see what this is like. And those ceremonies are tremendously important in the military. So it's nice for us to be able to have our guests see that as well. We also do a number of other events. You've probably heard that we show Top Gun movie every year. The last couple of years, we've done Top Gun Maverick. This year, we're actually going to do a double feature. This is the 40th anniversary of Top Gun. So on May 22nd, Friday, we're going to show the original Top Gun, and then we're going to show Top Gun Maverick on Saturday the 23rd. So I think a lot of people will be excited for that because we sell out those tickets, almost 2,500 tickets in less than an hour.
Wow.
When do those tickets go on sale?
They'll be going on sale probably about a month before. So probably late April, maybe early May.
Okay.
We also do a huge 4th of July celebration. As you know, the fireworks are launched on multiple barges here in San Diego Bay, and one of those barges is just right off the bow of Midway. So same situation. We have probably 2,500 people on board Midway for that event every year. And we do a lot of other events, educational events, events for various military associations. So Midway really is a tremendously unique platform that can support a variety of different events, whether they're military related, corporate related, or just a very unique special event.
You know, MotoArt actually has an annual event called Tag Fest. Maybe we'll see them on board one year.
Right.
If you know, make sure you guys get the discount. It'd be awesome.
You know, I can say in 2020 I graduated. I walked across the deck up there from Embry-Riddle University.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah, we do that at graduation every year.
Yeah, and I will say that was one of the most memorable experiences of my life, coming on the aircraft carrier and walking across that that stage up there and getting my bachelor's degree.
Sure.
And everything that Midway did and worked through with Embry-Riddle to host that was amazing.
Yeah.
So I mean, anybody that's looking forward to hosting or doing an event,
Absolutely.
I would say the Midways.
Yeah, and we're booking events all the way out into 2027 right now. So, and we really want people to have a wonderful experience, not only for their event, you know, because it's important to them, but we want to also show them, you know, what is so unique about the Midway. So you come on for your event, but there's other things that we will bring into the mix that allow you to actually, like I said, have that naval aviation experience as part of your event as well.
Well, I'm sure you've seen, but we are going to be introducing a piece of Midway history here with our propeller that we were fortunate enough to get in the bottom of your ship.
Well, that's correct. Yep, we had to cut off several of our propeller blades to keep us from sinking into the hard packed sand below the ship.
And let me tell you, this stuff is not light.
No,
not light to work with at all. So it was quite the process to get these down to a tag size. But we look forward to working with you to try to get out the outreach.
Absolutely.
To let people know about this incredible piece of history that everyone can know from the USS Midway.
Well, you know, it's just another part of the whole storytelling opportunity here. I mean, these are tremendously unique keepsakes, and I know collector's items for people all over the world. So this is just another way of preserving not only the history of the Midway, but preserving the history of naval aviation in a tremendously classy way. So we're just delighted to be part of the program with you guys, and we're excited to what the future holds.
Mr. Koontz, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Today.
Nice to meet all you guys.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
Cool.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dave.
You're very welcome.
All right, we're back at the USS Midway with our new friend, Len Santiago, correct?
That's correct.
Your last name? I have a Santiago that works with me. That's
Oh,
one
really?
of my favorite employees.
First name or last name?
First name.
Oh, okay.
All right. But
Might be my cousin. You know, Private Santiago from the movie A Few Good Men. he screwed up.
Did he? So, Len, you're the chief engineer of the USS Midway.
That's right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what is your role day to day? I mean, this is a massive aircraft carrier. I mean, there's got to be a zillion things for you to work on every day. I never
Yeah.
a moment or what?
Well, one thing nice about it is, you know, about 50% of the Midway is open. So I don't really need to worry about the other 17 decks and the other spaces and everything. But when I took the job in April of 2017 with Admiral Mac McLaughlin, he gave me the task, hey, make sure the #1 exhibit is always good. The women's restroom. Don't screw up.
Yeah.
And it is the most Gucciest restroom back there. Then the men's restroom.
The time is close in 15 minutes.
Sorry, Len, I'm going to get kicked off here in a minute.
I know. It's okay. I got the keys.
All right.
We'll hit the only afloat Bevmo over there on the port side.
Are we
Yeah.
good, Ozzy? Ozzy, we good?
Yeah,
Oh,
great.
I mean, I will say you guys have some of the cleanest bathrooms I've ever seen in my life on this boat.
Yeah, that's what gets us the #1 Yelp ratings that Dave talks about and everything. And you know, when you go traveling through Buc-ee's and cross country, if the bathrooms aren't clean, you know, your guests and yourselves are like, what am I going to catch in here?
You're getting that 5-star rating.
That's exactly right. In fact, it's so neat. Some of these restrooms here, right before COVID, I was building it, and Admiral Mac McLaughlin, the CFO, I had the Dyson reps come down. We were doing stainless steel. I have 57 engineers, and about 80% of them are just the cleaners. The other 5 of us are the real engineers, no tighty righty, loosey lefty. So we need to fix the bathrooms because they were still the original dingy yellow. Sailors used to smoke on here, so it was yellow in there. And so I said, okay, we need to fix these bathrooms up. And so we did that. Brought AO Reed, stainless steel. I was measuring the water so that It just floats. I'm the one who cleans the bathrooms in our house. My mom was a nurse, so she made me scrub the bathrooms where, I mean, you can have surgery in the bathroom. And so we did it. And so Admiral Mac McLaughlin goes, God dang it, my chief engineer, you're like a drunken sailor. You made these bathrooms so nice, too fancy. And then what happened March 16, 2020? COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, hands free, everything. So we were the first museum in San Diego to open up open air. Because I mean, when you came in through the brow, every other 5-10 feet, we had little hand sanitizers. I opened up elevator doors 1, 2, and 3. I had an air meter to measure positive airflow.
Wow.
And then the county health won the bathrooms, and they went, oh, wow. Stainless steel, hands off. When you put your hands in there, it sounds like an F-35 launching up in North Island. There were soccer balls in the urinals. You see the boys lined up like, score! So, teaching boys perfect fire control.
I noticed the soccer balls in Europe.
That's right.
Does that change per season?
Yeah, we do
we got
football, soccer balls, and guys have bad aim. So we had to improve their fire control and then you hear the boys outside the bathroom call their mom, Mom, check this out. There's 5 boys lined up. It's almost like this painting in the men's restroom, like a Buca de Beppo. Yeah, they're all lined up there.
Paired with the Olympics, you're looking for downhill skiers now. Huh?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So anyway,
All right.
so that my job here is the potties and support the parties.
All right. Well, I do know there's a lot of gray paint on this ship.
Yeah. 50
I mean,
Shades of Grey.
Last time I was here, I don't know if you recall, but I'm sure you do recall.
Yeah.
But we had a ship actually hit you here.
Yeah.
It was a cruiser,
Yep.
like a pleasure cruiser.
That's 65-foot yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably, your YouTube's going to show up to his YouTube. It's labeled ship face.
Yeah. Ship face.
Yeah. So this professor out of North Carolina made a YouTube out of it. I met him last year at HINSA. And I said, oh, you're the dude that made money off me.
Right.
So yeah, August. No, I think it was August. Yeah, I was down below, ready to take off my coveralls. We had just removed scaffolding from the flight deck down to the water.
You just finished.
We just finished it.
Right.
And here I am going, oh yeah, it's a beautiful, great job and everything. And Ivan over here in events over here, I call him Spicoli because he's like Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He comes down engineering down there and he goes, hey, chief engineer, I think we just got hit by a boat. And I, whoa, Ivan. You don't say that to a recovering naval officer who drives ships or chief engineer. What are you talking about? So he brings out his phone and he shows me. And there's this 65-foot boat hit us straight on, like at full speed. You see the black smoke going. I'm going, what the heck? Go up, bring on my radio. He was tearing down for a retirement event. I said, who else is up there? Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of people up there. We watch this boat hit us. Get on the radio. Safety is chief engineer. Boat just collided port side. Hey, Ivan, what color's the boat? Yellow. Yellow boat, 65 foot. Heading. Hey, Ivan, where'd they heading? I think they're going to the Coronado Bridge. Heading south towards the Coronado Bridge.
So they just bounced.
They did a 3-point turn, and they were running for it. You see black smoke coming out of them,
right?
Oh, they thought they were Top Gun bolting down south. So they called the harbor police. They called the Coast Guard, and then they busted them right outside Manny Machado's house. Oh. So there's another video. I dare you to Google it. They're all sitting on the back of the boat, like doing this.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, how they could not miss the Midway.
We were stealth.
Yeah.
Midway now is the new stealth carrier. Yeah. That great paint. Yeah. All that great paint you talk about.
Yeah.
We're invisible. No one can see you right now.
Yeah.
Panic correct.
Great.
You blend into the skyline.
Right.
That's right.
Couldn't see you.
Hey, so we have this incredible product that we're bringing to market in a couple of weeks. This is the screw, or most people call it the prop.
Yeah, prop. Yep.
Boy, this stuff is not light.
No.
When you first introduced it to us and took us down to the weapons room and
weapons magazine where they used to keep AMRAAMs, air missiles,
that was quite the treat going down that elevator.
Yeah.
And as you know, this just weighs a ton.
Yeah.
So we've had some, a little bit of trying to figure out how to bring it to market.
Yeah.
certainly wasn't easy to get these down to a tag size.
That's good American steel, 1945.
Right.
That's the good stuff.
Right. To put this in a water jet, I mean, this is slow going.
Right.
Trying to get it down to this size.
Okay.
But we're excited about it. But we also have a couple other products up our sleeve, and one of them is the flight deck.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about that, because there's just not that much of it. I think we have under 100 pieces with what you gave us,
right?
Which is really going to be the most, elite piece that we can offer,
right?
And how do we get this flight deck? I mean, it's coming up here just a few weeks after this release.
Well, yeah, I got to be careful, releasing the ship and everything, and not bring disgrace on the Navy with the Navy ship and everything. But we're at 60,000 tons of steel just rotting in sea air, and there's areas of the ship where we try our best to salvage as much,
right?
But there's so much sticky rice and Belzona and tape I can use to keep the ship together.
Right.
My holy water is running out. So there's sections of the ship in the flight deck. The flight deck was the first all steel flight deck the United States Navy made.
That's right.
In fact, in the back end of the flight deck, the docent training that Brian goes through, which is actually a pretty rigorous training. When we captured a bunch of V2 rockets at the end of World War II, because Midway missed World War II.
Right.
So because Midway was the first all-steel ship, they put some V2 rockets on the back end of the ship, and they tested them. It was the first level of ballistic missile defense, and he was like, wow. Okay, that test is done.
Yeah,
right.
Not going to do
But
that
the
again.
steel deck was resilient to the high-temperature steel of those V2 rockets blasting it. So 4 inches of steel in some areas, 3 inches. Ship got modified, but now there's pieces of the flight deck that I try to save and I can't. Then we salvage it and do some stuff like, we have to drill a hole through a pad eye to get to a particular area where we have to run some power, or there's a particular area of damage that has occurred because of all the water and rain we get through. Like today it's raining, so the corrosion eats it. So in order to make it safe, we'll cut a section out. So, we'll do some surgical stuff as you go.
Right.
I just can't give you, hey, I'm going to cut this out and give you a jacuzzi, and then give my volunteers a jacuzzi, and then boom, here's a chunk of it.
Right. Well, you know who to call.
I know who to call. But I just got to be, my job, part of my job is in our mission statement.
Yeah.
Preserve the USS Midway and the legacy it serves.
Right.
So I take my job pretty seriously when I took this job, preserve the USS Midway as much as possible. So I have to be very judicious with what I give. And so some of the things I've given you already was going to be scrapped anyway. Working with our great, corporate partnership, Steve Miller here, that it helps reinvest back into the Midway.
Right.
Things that were going to get recycled anyway. Right. So we'll save Flipper and not kill Flipper with some metal floating around. And we kept some of the stuff in the weapons mag. When we removed the propeller of the Knights, I said, no, we got to keep that. I don't know what we're going to do with it.
Right.
But we're going to keep it and not send it to, Len's recycling yard. Or down
good
thing.
And
so that metal has been sitting in our weapons magazine since 2022, when I got permission from the Navy and from the leadership and the board of directors to cut because of the pressure it was putting on the bottom of the hull.
Right.
And if there's other pieces of the flight deck, we'll go through. It's a neat idea, so that it doesn't end up in a landfill.
Right.
Yeah.
And it actually helps. You folks help us reinvest back into the Midway, sort of that, circle of life.
Yeah. I mean, there's no better way to be able to give somebody a piece of a naval history here.
Right.
And be able to hold it in their hands and say, oh, I have a piece of the Midway, versus going to a landfill and it's just, it's just trash.
It's just trash. And, I travel around the world. My kids get mad at me. I'm like, I'm at the Rome, I'm in Budapest, and I'm like, rubbing it against these buildings like, oh my God, some Romans died in some line here. The head got ripped off in the Colosseum. And my kid's like going, Pops, you're embarrassing me. Why are you rubbing the wall so much? I mean, but it's history.
Right.
I'm a tactile kind of guy. You want to have that. It's unique. So as long as we're very careful with what we give and things, because you can get out of hand. Some of the ships have had some issues with that. And so, but as the ship ages slowly, I think we can lend to the project and then spread the and preserve the legacy of the Midway and those who have served on it. And then the docents like Brian take over.
Right. Now, do you have any bulkhead material in the future? I know sometimes you're making new displays, new exhibits.
Yeah.
I mean, next time you're ripping out those bunks, think of us.
Yeah.
Because I think we can, because look, this isn't going to be cheap. I mean, it's a very difficult process to bring this to market.
Right.
So we're looking for a little bit more affordability for people to have a chance, an opportunity to own a piece of the Midway.
Sure.
So keep us in mind when you're ripping out a bulkhead or a bunk bed or that.
Well, you saved me Motrin, so I'll leave it here for it. You guys can pick up the stuff.
There you go.
My plantar fasciitis is all screwed up. So, I mean, I've given the task to my folks. We'll take a look at the material. Okay, is it safe to turn over? Because I have to do the judicious thing of like, okay, is that safe to give? Or, is a fish going to get 3 heads on that later on and someone's fishing in Lake Michigan? And then, or does it tell the story? Will it tell the story like Midway and my docents tell the story? And so we're looking at that. Everything from up in the island mast. We just did some mast restoration. That was like a $3 million project going up there. We got areas below deck. The boss, you interviewed Terry Kraft. He gets the good idea. Ferry lands on spot 1. He goes, "Hey, I want to put blah." And I go, "What are you smoking, sir?" No, just kidding. So we're always opening a new space. So I love his mission of we open up as a museum ship. I've learned it now. We got to open up something new so that our members and the guests come to something new. I mean, it takes you 2 days to go through 60 some odd exhibits on this ship. Okay. And so I think when we open up another exhibit, we're working on another area of the ship. We did an engineering exhibit. The boss put in an intelligence center exhibit. Yeah. So you guys are on my Costco Christmas card list. We'll think about you. I'll call Steve. We'll get you on board and we'll prep this up for you.
So let me ask, from an engineering aspect, what is your most challenging thing dealing with on the Midway?
Next to the docents? No. That most challenging thing is dealing with a ship this big in public water, not on a federal base, public access, and making sure people are safe. I am really technically on watch 7 days a week. It's just a classic chief engineer thing. We have, even when we're closed, me and my partner in crime, Dominic Boccia, the safety director, you'll get people trying to climb. We've had people break on board Midway, make a pastrami sandwich, and next thing you know, fire alarm goes off, smoke alarms, all this.
Happy hour.
Yeah, this is chief engineer Yabba Dabba Doo time.
It's 4:59.
Back to what you suggested to begin with.
That's right. I got the keys. The booze boss has got good stuff back there. I wish you were here because that was one day the previous CEO said, if you look at it, those accumulators, that's 4-inch thick accumulators, perfectly shaped Motrin pill. And we were walking through, we were going to build the restaurant back here. And I said, "Hey, where are you going to put all the liquor at? There's not enough room in the CEO office in here." And so,
anymore.
And it's a multi-million-dollar business for our functions, liquor license. So he went walking to the hangar bay and he goes up to the port side. He goes, "Can you cut that out?" I said, "What?" and it's a 40-ton, 4-inch steel, perfectly shaped that was designed to absorb 600 psi shock every 45 seconds.
Wow.
And not lose shape to launch the planes off the port catapult. So that steel, it would take 8.5 hours with every plasma cutter, it turned into a science experiment with our demolition team to cut all night long an 8.5 sheet that was 2 to 4 inches thick.
Wow.
That 40-ton Motrin pill. So again, Rosie the Riveter built the prop blades, cut it, thick steel. We don't roll that steel anymore. You see the debate how we're trying to find steel. Shipyards are closing. So this ship was made tough, really tough, and so I wish you were there before. So I was like, "Oh man, what am I gonna do with 40 tons of giant Motrin pill?" I'm like, "Oh my God." Yeah. But anyway,
what's the thickest part of the ship?
The thickest part, probably the flight deck and some areas of engineering. So if during World War II, when we were building it, we took that. The rumor mill is, and I looked at drawings, and it's sort of a mixture. There was like 7 designs, and the initial designation for Midway was CVB, carrier, vessel, battleship. And so we needed to build the ships. So we had battleship hull designs. There was a Montana battleship hull. This is where the historians and the curators compete with the engineers. We have this debate on the second, third deck. I go, whatever. I'm looking at engineering drawings. As a naval engineer, I know how naval engineers work. We were in the middle of the war, and naval engineers are like, let's get quick, let's get fast, let's pull this design down. So there was these battleship hull designs. So in the belly of Midway, below your feet, is another citadel. The engineering spaces were broken up, and there's areas where there's 2 to 4 inches of bulkhead because it was designed to take and withstand a torpedo attack from the sides. You know, we were getting our butts whacked, you know, in the middle of World War II. So between 43 and 45, we were pumping out 600 Navy ships. Wow. This was the first all steel flight deck ship. We were putting wooden flight decks on anything that would go forward and putting planes on there. And then we discovered during the kamikaze attacks, they were tracking straight in the ship. So all steel. So when you look at our engineering drawings, the Midway was designed to take about 63% damage before the captain said, we're out of here, declare abandoned ship. And I have those drawings down below. So in below, there's another 3 to 4 inches of steel bulkheads where we take some members behind.
So it's just all armor.
That's exactly right.
Right?
It's all armored. And so the skin of the ship is four ballast tanks going out. And they used to put the black oil in there as storage for the 12 boilers. The oil was designed to absorb some of the concussion because you didn't get enough to the high enough temperature that you burned in the boilers, but it was enough to absorb. So four blisters on this side, 4 blisters on this side, double deck below. You remember the incident with the Exxon Valdez when it ran aground and it spilled all that oil? Well, it was a single hull. It was a single hull tanker. Right. Okay. What did they go back to? They went to double bottom tankers so that if you scrape the bottom, you got a Midway was originally built double hull bottom.
Interesting.
She was designed to take a beating. She had 12 boilers. That was a life before the docents came, but main propulsion, the 12 boilers brought the steam alive. So you had to protect the boilers down there. Okay. And then you had the aviators sleeping 8 hours and they jump in their Gucci planes like Admiral Kraft and all that kind of stuff. So, and then you had the upper flight deck. That's all armored up there.
So when you look at a modern airfield, they can only take so many landings on those concrete asphalt runways before they have to resurface them. Do they have to resurface the Midway at all?
All the flight decks resurface because when you go up there, the hooks grab into it. So when the ships come in, used to do that, worked with the Third Fleet as the engineer material officer. We had to watch their schedule. When they come back, like if you look at the carriers now, they have to resurface the flight deck. And the best place to do that is in San Diego because you need good dry weather. They try to do it in the Pacific Northwest, you get corrosion introduction through. And then when you get planes like the F-35, that booger burns flight decks. So they had to redo a lot of the amphibious ships to resurface the flight deck. So after so many landings, after so many deployments, especially when a carrier does what is called flex deck operations, you're popping jets, doing the Tom Cruise, Dagger 1 launch, Dagger 2 launch, Dagger 2, and you do that 35, 45 times, 35 planes in a sortie every hour and a half over multiple days like Desert Storm. And then you got to land that $30 million jet and come back in one piece. So we can cycle another pilot because he got his pretty 8-hour sleep, put him on another plane, give him some gas. He flies off. That flight deck takes a beating. So as part of the engineers, I have a super engineer named John Bentley. He retired from taking care of all the carriers over here in San Diego. Now he's taking care of the Midway. He's putting the gray paint on there as part of the job. Research that flight deck is important. Have you ever heard the story of how you can tell between a Navy pilot and an Air Force pilot landing in a plane?
No. How they land it?
When you land at a Southwest Airlines or when you fly back east.
Oh yeah.
You tell between a Navy and Air Force pilot?
We make fun of them all the time when we land. Like, I mean, when you land like Alaska Airlines and you hit that hard land, you can tell who's the Navy pilot.
That's what I told my kids. And every time they bat 1,000 better than the Padres. So it's like, you come in hard, I hit the brake, and he comes on like, hey, welcome to San Diego. And they're like, that's a Navy guy. And we ask that if he comes in slow, long runway, he's
real buttery.
He goes by the golf course and like nice and slow. That's airport because they land someplace in Minot, South Dakota, where they have big runways, big runways and big golf courses.
So, Dave, you had a question you wanted to ask Len about his new role as president of
Yeah. Well, of course, I heard you're now the president of the Naval Historical.
Yeah. You know what Navy stands for?
No.
Never again volunteer yourself. Yeah, I am the president of Historical Naval. Yeah.
Well,
So I took up the role. The president CEO said, "Hey, Len, the organization of 100+ ships would be a nice ad." So I contribute there, and I was working with all the other chief engineers. We all have the great job, USS Iowa, USS Intrepid. You know, you got to preserve, you know, ships in steel rotting away. So we snort great paint together, share ideas, and then I became VP, and then VP became president. So now I've taken on that role because I got other things on parties, Freedom Park, take care of the Midway, and now I'm advocating sharing the Midway magic with all the historical ships. So we're working with actually some legislation, hopefully, called Save Our Ship. We try to get in with the Department of Interior, try to get some $5 million to help, like the USS Lucid, a minesweeper up in Stockton. The Bowfin, we have submarines in the association, so Bowfin in Hawaii. Midway is really blessed to have super volunteers like Brian here, and I have volunteers restoration. We have a great position right here on the waterfront.
All right.
You know, $30 tickets, hella cheaper than Disneyland or SeaWorld, where Dave came from. And then you come back the next day for a great membership program here. But a lot of the other ships need that help.
Right.
So we're going to try to get that legend. So I'm going to spend the next 2 years as the Hinsa boss here, try to help ships, bring in some of our companies that help paint the ship and say, hey, you help Midway out. How about you help out little ship USS Texas, battleship?
Right.
Our last World War I battleship down in Texas, tell their story. Give them a discount. You help Midway out. We do some free promo for you. The painters, the scaffolders, the gas-free engineers, the naval architects. And they like that. They really do. So they like doing something that has clear mission, clear purpose, just like Midway does.
Are you traveling to some of the different ships? Or
I did a little bit. And then, in fact, this summer, there's a meeting in Washington, D.C. And then when I have to check in once a year with the Navy and the Washington Navy Yard. And we talk about Midway. We talk about the other ships, try to be an advocate for that. We try to get parts from some of the decommissioning ships. I think Terry may have mentioned, we are the last. This is the last aircraft carrier because all the rest of them are nuclear. So you may be feeling a little tingle or glow when you go visit the engineering space. Or like, okay, we won't use the Enterprise or the old Kennedy kind of thing. But so we're the last, and then we'll try to get some harvest parts for them, and then we destroy. So I do that down here. We bring in some of the damage control parts from the ships that they don't need anymore, and we farm them out. I gave a power cable to the USS Iowa to help them turn their gun turret. The only way you can load bullets into a battleship is you have to turn one of the gun turrets and slide the bullet down. Well, they for many years didn't have the proper power to help them turn, so they came down, help them out. So we do our thing to try to help them out. Great to do that.
Great. Yep. So let me ask you this: if the Navy was to come down from the Pentagon and say, "Hey, we need the Midway and we need it back in service," could you push this boat out into the harbor right now and?
No, because part of it, you got part of my prop plates now. That's number one.
You got half a prop.
Half a rudder.
That's right. We're gonna have to put oars out, and we're gonna look like 300 and like ramming speed. No,
You got plenty of sailors.
So you know what? What's interesting? 12 boilers. A lot of the ship. I came from the gas turbine world, diesel world, and everything. We don't have the expertise anymore,
Really?
for these 12 boilers. And I would tell you, we have still lots of ships. A lot of the ships in the active duty Navy and the military Sea Lift Command. You go look at their job listing. They are looking for youngsters to go back to steam plants.
Wow.
To do that. Yeah. They're offering bonuses.
Really?
It's sort of a recruiting pitch for the military Sea Lift Command because I feel bad for those guys. I used to be one of those guys. So, it's the skill set to light off a boiler, stick a stick in there, and watch this thing go boom.
Yeah.
And then maintain boiler water chemistry, maintain you're dealing with superheated steam, more than the stuff you're making tea on the water. I mean, it's on the curves of superheated.
Yeah.
Okay. Then turn it back into water. And then, so, the challenge is the skill set, is the people. So even if they gave that order, I think, even if you didn't cut up the ship and we had the plants, it'd be hard to get the people.
Yeah.
So you have to get those guys in the movie Battleship. You remember the movie?
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we can get in and
They
kill
got-
the aliens.
The USS Iowa out there.
Yeah, we can turn a gun mount and get the ship turning and doing 360 like the movie Fast and the Furious. And you swing a battleship.
So
God.
Len,
Our director is telling us we got about a minute left, so we got to wrap
Okay.
it up. Any
So-
last minute?
Len, real quick.
Yeah.
You referred to your service. Can you tell us a little bit about your service with the Navy and the path that brought you here to the Midway?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was a Navy baby. My dad was a recruiter. I've been around ships. He was a submarine kind of guy. He told me one day and said, "Hey, I didn't save enough money for college. I was the first of 5 kids. You either enlist in the Navy or get out of the house." So I did a thing called an ROTC program at the Anti-Naval Academy called the University of California, Berkeley. Admiral Nimitz was actually the first commanding officer there, famous, wonderful 5-star admiral. I learned so much. And then I started, my eyeballs went south, so I couldn't fly. It was a day of Top Gun. Everybody wanted to be like Tom Cruise. Eyeballs went bad. So I went into ships, and I've enjoyed it. Went on a brand new ship, USS Lake Champlain, did USS Russell, USS Peleliu. I was a bus driver for Marines, who are the #1 weapon system, who can kill with your hands. Great Americans. Went on to Ronald Reagan, served with Terry there, and retired and did defense contracting, teaching sailors for a while on the ships, put on the coveralls back on. And then I got a call by a great man called Admiral Mac McLaughlin, who was the CEO of the Midway. And he said, "Hey, I'm looking for a new chief engineer. Things are getting bigger, badder. And I heard you're looking for a new lily pad, like the game Frogger." I always tell that to my young folks and say, life is like the game of Frogger, always prepare for that next adventure.
Yeah.
Don't burn any bridges behind you.
Yeah.
Wife didn't want to move around anymore. I actually had orders to go to Singapore, and I was been waiting for these orders for my last job in the Navy. And then my family said, we're staying in San Diego. And I went, oh, time to transition now.
Oh,
And,
very cool. I'm just going to say thank you,
All
Len,
right.
and go Bears.
yeah, go Bears. Rose Bowl soon.
Yeah, right.
We've been waiting 100 years.
Len, thank you.
Yeah,
Pleasure.
great product. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to supporting
A
it.
lot of fun
All right.
talking.
Talking.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Good.